Implausible Nature now has dice. That's right, you can get these awesome D6s made by our partner, Baron of Dice. These custom dice have the Implausible Nature logo on the 6 side and also come with square corners, which means they will roll more evenly than rounded corner dice. Head on over to baronofdice.com and use discount code IN40K to get a discount on your order and support us at the same time. Check out his full collection of dice for all your gaming needs with the link down in the description. Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's video, we've got another interview with another GT winner. Today we have TJ on with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Really glad to have you on here. Great to see Black Templars win a big tournament, and we'll get to that in just a minute. A couple of things to note. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of some things that are going on with the channel. Obviously, I've got my 100 Days of Hobby shorts series that I am in progress of doing that right now. So check that out. On the shorts, there's a playlist of those. You can watch them all. They're all a minute long. Shouldn't take you long to go through them. And check those out. Also, check out our Discord and our Patreon. A lot of great things going on there as well. And one of our partners, Baron of Dice, is the place to buy your exclusive Black Templar Implausible Nature dice. So check those out. He is going to be running a sale in November. A lot of really great deals leading up to Black Friday for his dice and all the things on his site. So go check out baronofdice.com to find out what all those are. And yeah, so let's get right into it here. You've got probably the first thing a lot of people are going to talk about is the really unorthodox list that you have, and I know Bob just mentioned it. It's certainly very different take on it. It's not using Righteous Crusaders; it's using the Ironstorm detachment. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your list?
Yeah. So once the new Space Marine detachment came out, it's kind of a race to see who can go the furthest, the quickest, and definitely
Yep.
Ironstorm seemed really strong. The list is very unique in that the best melee I have, well, other than the dreadnoughts, the best melee I have is a power fist with 2 swings on each of the Crusader squads. But the list really leans heavily into how to mitigate the loss of wound reroll with the changes to Oath of Moment. If we end up getting into each individual units, there is a component with each where that one dice we have for that one reroll has a huge return on investment, and in a lot of ways, even though we're not rerolling all wounds, this list allows you to reroll almost all wounds. So couple that with the point decreases, it turned out to be pretty strong.
Yeah, absolutely. At first look, and we'll include this in the video itself where you can take a look at the list, but it takes me back to 5th edition when I was running Gunline Templars. Saw those many years ago, and it's very effective in the Iron Storm. So I think the first thing that people are going to take a look and see is you're running the Firstborn Crusader squads. Kind of take us a little bit through those on why that was a selection. I presume it's because you wanted the cheap las cannons.
Absolutely. It's 65 points a model. They are by far the cheapest 3-up save, 2 wound Space Marines in the Codex. So right when I saw how cost effective they are, I think they're interesting and could be a pick even if they didn't have the heavy weapon that comes along with it. But the fact that you can get a las cannon and you have 1 free reroll, so either the hit or the wound, and if you're shooting your oath target, well, then you get to reroll your wound, which is now you've made Oath of Moment, and you get to do that 5 separate times. And the really nicest part about that is, when I play some knights too. When you play knights, you have to declare all your shots, right? And sometimes you waste shots. With 5 Crusader squads, you cannot waste a shot because you're shooting, okay, this guy's going to shoot here. And if he's not dead, okay, the next squad, he'll shoot there. And if he's not dead, and so forth. So there is no possibility of wasting a shot because you get to individually select one at a time. It's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any rhyme or reason to your special weapon choices? And I noticed that you have a multi-melta on one of them rather than the las cannon.
When I was envisioning how I was going to play the list, I assumed I was always going to have one unit in strategic reserve.
Okay.
And the unit in strategic reserve, even though new Melta is rough and that it's 18 instead 9, I still thought, hey, you know what? This thing's more likely to get up into Melta range, and so I might as well have one unit which can automatically strategic reserve, come in, maybe have one extra hit if that ends up being important. Plus, coming in from strategic reserve, there's not a lot of targets I'm going to need 48 inches for. 18 inches is going to be more than enough for anything I'm coming in if I'm actually trying to shoot with it.
So something I notice is you've got 4 gladiators in here, but it's split. You got 2 lancers. Obviously, virtually, we're all running lancers at this point. That's pretty much the backbone of our
Auto take,
shooting. Yeah, I mean, running 2 lancers if you can find them. That's the other thing. If you can find them, a lot of people are having trouble finding them right now. So they're like, well, what can I run instead? We've talked about this on previous videos of what types of other units can we run in place of a lancer if we just can't find one. But if you do have them, they are, like you said, basically an auto take to run a pair of them. But the other 2 gladiators are reapers. Tell me about that choice. And why you went with that over maybe a third lancer or something else like a vindicator.
So, great question. Something in the list I wanted to make sure I had was, wanted to make sure that I had an answer to any type of army I was going to go against. And I didn't want there just to be one answer where if my opponent could take out that one thing, well, then then I'm not on plan B or C, I'm on plan, D. So the reason for the Reaper is the stratagem that allows exploding 5s and 6s. And so and this is going to couple again with the Oath of Moment. So you get 12 shots, just strength 6, AP 0, damage 1. You're going to shoot at your Oath of Moment target. And if it's a infantry, it's double exploding 5s, double exploding 6s. So you're fishing for 5s and 6s, and the math works out where after the second reroll through, you're going to have about 7 or 8 lethal hits, and then all of those explode. So you take 12 shots. Out of that, you get 7 or 8 lethal, and then you end up with 21 hits because of the double exploding. Then you go in there, and it's twin linked. So there's your Oath of Moment. 6s are devastating wounds. So again, I just roll everything no matter what, trying to fish for those devastating wounds. And the math works out to where you take a 12-shot gun, you end up with about 17 wounds and 7 dev wounds, which just chews through everything. I mean, those 2 units, I went into a 10-man brick of Death Guard Terminators, and that was it. Those 2 tanks shot, deleted the linchpin of my opponent's army because it's so much dev wounds and so many saves. It's just sheer mass amount of dice that it's impossible to chew through.
Yep. Now, do you escort those? So you did take the 2 Techmarines in the list, one with the Adept on Messiah and the Augury Web. So who did they escort?
So I definitely learned a lot about both of those. The twin linked guy, not the twin link, the auto wounding one, the 6 inches aura, that always went with the Reaper because that's what needs the auto wounding. You don't, with all the Lancer rerolls, you don't need the auto wound. But with the Reapers and the sheer amount of shots they have, that auto wounding is huge. So that guy, Techmarine, always went walking up with them because they have 24-inch range. The other Techmarine, and this is something I definitely learned about the list, in 30 rounds, I used his avoid damage 1 time because with the Lancer and the Ballistus, you're so far back and there's so many more threats up in their face that they're not shooting at something that's 48 inches away. And so I just had him there in case, and he would give it a +1 to hit. But definitely the lethal hit went with the Lancers, or went with the Reaper, and the other Techmarine just went with the Lancers and the Ballistas.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so the stratagem you were talking about is mercy is weakness, where if you each time you target a makes an attack that targets a unit below half strength, you get sustained hits 1. We don't care about that because the weapon has sustained hits 2 natively, so you don't even need to target something that's below starting strength, because it says, and when making such an attack, if the attacking model is a vehicle, it successfully unmodified hit of 5+ scores a critical wound. So the wording's a little weird on that, and I'll have to reread it whether the second part requires them to be under starting strength or not.
The way
I'm
I
not
would
really
play it
sure.
is I would just shoot junk at it until they took a wound, and then
Yeah,
unload
until
into
they
them
took
with
a
the
guy.
rest.
Yeah.
Which is great with the Crusaders, right? You can just throw a little bolt, and somebody gets a wound, and you're like, all right, thank you.
So some other interesting choices in your list that I noted is the Stormspeeder Thunderstrike, and then the 2 assassins. Now a lot of folks have been still running the Calidus because of the increase your strat cost, but the Evisor is an interesting choice as well. That we don't see too often.
Well, every list I start with 4 things: automatic 2 Lancers, the Calidus, and the Thunderstrike. And going back to always thinking of, how do I overcome what, our loss to Oath of Moment, that +1 to wound on the Thunderstrike makes everything in my army, so much more efficient. And it makes every target, worst case scenario, whatever I'm shooting at or swinging at it with is going to wound it on a 5. And what I love about that Thunderstrike is you just pick a unit that you hit. You pick one unit that you hit, and that's what you can make the rest of your army get +1 to wound with. But it still has 3 other really strong and basically las cannon guns. It has one that's strength 12, d6 +1 damage, and then 2 that are strength 10, d6 +1 damage. But the fact that I can shoot those at a heavy target and do damage, or you pick up the unit and then still have with my other little D3 shot gun, and it hits on a 2, and I have my reroll in case I miss. It's so efficient for the rest of my army, and as well as that unit to actually do the damage. The Eversor Assassin was between him and the Lieutenant with Combi Bolter, the guy who's lone op. Eversor's there for the lone op. In the list, there's the Scout, which again is one of our best units for sure. We have the Invictor Tactical, and then the Eversor. And so the Eversor and the Invictor Tactical can move up where the Scouts have already screened out. Scouts can get out of there for the secondaries, but the lone op is why the Eversor's there. And if he gets into melee, it might be the most fun I've had playing Space Marine, seeing 6 attacks turn into like 12 hits, and you're like, this is insanity because of triple exploding 6s to hit. It's so fun. And the 9-inch pregame move, 9-inch scout move. He's really quick. He gets some good movement.
So walk us through a little bit of your tournament experience, because we got a little bit of the gist of why you took stuff in the list. How did it work against certain opponents that you faced?
So the first opponent I went against was Death Guard, and this army, my army is really shooty, and part of the reason for it being so shooty is I don't think Space Marine melee stacks up incredibly favorable against Death Guard melee now and against orcs, which is kind of all over the tournament scene. So the first opponent was Death Guard, and if you guys have gone all melee and gone against all shooting before, it plays out how it plays out. They have to move towards you. I don't necessarily want to move. I'm fine letting them come to me, and I just have a shooting gallery with Mortarion and Thunderstrike +1 to wound versus Mortarion, plus las cannon shot, las cannon, and just one at a time. Worked pretty favorable to my advantage. That first round, once Mortarion went down round 2, that was where it really tilted in my favor. The next match was incredibly hard. It was against an Orcs list, and prior to this Orcs game, I'd never had an Orcs match last, past round 3. Again, the same thing as shooting versus melee, but Orcs now, they're so cheap and they're so tough that game was insane. We were tied, and then I was down going into round 5. I went first, so
Mm-hmm.
top of round 5, I did the math, and I basically had to prevent him from scoring any primary, and I could give up 1 secondary in order to get the win. Thankfully, I had enough stuff that the scouts who you redeploy, I was able to redeploy, shoot some grots off with scouts, which is hilarious to me. The Calidus with her flamer finished them off, so there goes one objective. And I was able to have enough movement with my tanks and vehicles where I could get on objectives and out OC them. So I ended up just having enough to deny all primary and only give up that 1 secondary to take the Orc win. Then we went to Imperial Guard, and I didn't really realize it until this tournament, but Space Marines had better shooting than Imperial Guard, even if the Imperial Guard's all gunline, because we have more range and we have more damage. And so the Imperial Guard list I went against did fix secondaries, bring it
Mm-hmm.
down, and assassinate, because he had like 7 characters. But the opponent played really cheeky. He hid basically everything. I couldn't get access to it, but I had all those Crusader squads going up and taking objectives and sitting there and just scoring me points. If he popped out to shoot him, then I could in turn shoot him back. And so I won that game just based on the sheer number of bodies plus the scariness of our shooting. Round 4, Chaos Demons. And Chaos Demons is one of the lists I'm always most scared of because of Be'lakor. Them in GSC and Tau, who can say, hey, you can't shoot me outside of 12, and I guess now Chaos Space Marines too. That's brutal because I want to shoot you outside of 12. I don't want
Yep.
you in my face. But had to figure out which pieces of my army to sacrifice so that I could get the follow-ups to get the kills on. And Shalaxi rolled in. I sacrificed the Reaper turn 1 because, again, against Chaos Demons, there aren't infantry. So that's a unit that I don't really care much about. Picks
Mm-hmm.
up the Reaper, and then one by one I get to shoot until Shalaxi's dead. My other Reaper killed one of his big guys in Overwatch because he was the Oath target, and the Dev Wounds. Dev Wounds for Demons was a godsend. That game was really, really tight, came down to the wire, but was able to kill enough and use the movement to my advantage. A big play that I didn't realize at the time was he had Be'lakor and a lone op character with about 75 points sitting on an objective. And so he can't shoot him outside of 12. But long story short, I was able to drive the Thunderstrike in, be within 12 of that guy. I oath the momented that little guy, had the Thunderstrike kill him, give the +1 to something else, but now make Be'lakor decide, are you going to be a 350 point objective holder, or are you going to use your points to come punch me off of mid? He chose to come punch me off of mid, but then just rapid ingress the scouts, kind of behind. So make him make choices that were challenging based on the point differential.
Yep.
You want to keep going?
Yeah.
Round 5 went against World Eaters, which was a good taste of kind of experiencing what their melee is like. But this is where having so many Crusaders was huge. Kind of was able to meet them in melee. Even if they killed my Crusaders, the Reapers just pick up a squad of 10 every single time. And then the last round was, again, Imperial Guard, and the being able to outrange and outdamage really made it a Space Marine W. Even though the score was low, it was that mission where you can only score on the two objectives in the middle. You got 2 points for your home, 5 for the middle, and you took out the one in the middle. So it was kind of low scoring across the board, but fun.
Yeah. Sounds awesome. a little bit surprised you didn't face any Eldar.
You know, I
'Cause
was nervous about Eldar. There was a couple there, but they got knocked out in round 1 or 2. So I went to bed that night and I slept pretty easy. I'm thinking, okay, great. I don't I don't gotta face this.
yeah. So now, looking at this list, you talked a little bit about the Invictor on
Hmm.
some screening a little bit. How much of an impact do you feel that that unit and Infiltrate in general
Hmm.
helped you out?
I I think infiltrate is incredibly important, um, especially if you're going to do tactical, because the scouts forward deploy, so you can screen out. But my pregame move, I move him 6 inches. I always say forward deploy him on an objective, and then I move him off the objective because if my opponent draws the kill something on an objective secondary, I'm not going to give it to you. And if I get one that says, hold an objective that you don't currently hold, well, then I'm going to get it just by moving the 6 inches. But
Yep.
that Invictor tactical, with the stratagem where you +1 to all of his stats, his move, his save, his hit, um, and how he's randomly our strongest melee unit in the codex at strength 14.
I don't get that. That
It's
makes no sense, but
it makes no sense, but it was basically the same play every time. He moves up, lets me get the scouts out of there for their secondary stuff. But turn 2, he would turn the corner, he would shoot, he would charge, have a tank shock, guaranteed 6 mortal wounds, and then he would swing and he never didn't at least break even point wise. And if he's breaking even point wise, but denying primary because now they're tied up more in their secondary or more in their deployment zone, he was great. That's my first time to play with him in 10th, and he was wonderful.
he
Yeah, I
seems
think
like a
infiltrate's
great
huge.
distraction Carnifex. Like,
100%.
he's 140 points.
Hmm.
These are what, like, back in the old days in like fourth and fifth edition, we used to call them popcorn units. It's basically what a distraction Carnifex is. It's a unit that your opponent can't afford to ignore,
Hmm.
but you could care less if it dies or does anything at all because your opponent can't afford to ignore it. So they got to devote resources to kill it, and in the meantime, the rest of your things are
Hmm.
not taking the heat from that thing. And I don't understand why he's strength 14 and redemptors are 12, but you know what
Same number of attacks. Same number of attacks as well.
I'm not going to complain at throwing 2 extra dice on tank shock. So plus I have one that's painted and I converted with a third party kit to make it look more like an actual dreadnought. I would love to put him back on the table. So
He's got to get some tabletop time.
I'm glad that he did very well for you.
Yeah, I exactly the distraction Carnifex. He's so great to have. He guarantees at least breaks his breaks gets his points even. And you mentioned the other unit, the Redemptor. That was the biggest bust of my entire list. It did the least, and when I rebuilt the list, that's the first thing I pulled out because it's the one my most expensive unit's 165 points, other than the Redemptor, and the Redemptor did almost nothing all tournament. But so I can the 140 point Invictor, you don't care if it dies because it's doing exactly what you want it to do. It's taking damage away from something else that is more valuable.
Yep. And that was actually going to be my next question about because after the codexes come out and most of us have seen reduction of damage on the redemptors overall because of the loss of reroll to wounds, and I don't think that Ironstorm really gives you enough back with that reroll on the redemptor to make it worth
Hmm.
it. And that was going to be my big question for you: is like, is that what you're taking out? Even though you won the tournament and it obviously worked enough for you, but is it staying? And obviously, that's not the case. So, what does your list look like now?
So yeah, the things I pulled that guy out. I have there's a huge GT coming up this weekend, and so what I replaced it with is I replaced it with another scout squad. Um, in its place, and this is what I misplayed the Redemptor. I wanted it to come in from rapid ingress or strategic reserve to apply pressure on the back line, but with the amount of points it is in strength 9, they're with the Reapers. Anything the Reapers shoot at is what that would shoot at, but the Reapers do it more effectively. Um, it's just not enough, like you said, not enough overall damage, not enough movement, not enough horsepower. So I've dropped that guy out, and I'm bringing in the Armiger Warglaive, 12-inch move, OC8, and as come in from strategic reserve units, rapid ingress, move your 12 inches, park on a back objective, OC8, make them respond. That's what I wanted the Redemptor to do, but if he did it, it didn't really matter. His movement's not good enough. His just 5 attacks is 5 attacks. You hit on 3s, so you're going to drop 1 or 2. I mean, best case scenario, you're picking up 3 enemy models,
Yep.
and like, yay, if they have 2 OC, now we're pushing. So Warglaive, the Scout, and I switched the Crusader squad. The one that had a multi-melt, I gave him another las cannon. What I what I learned is strength 9 is just, if I was reroll, I would either reroll the hit or reroll the wounds on those multi-meltas, and often I needed to reroll both. So that's the changes: the Scout and the Armiger Warglaive in replace of the Redemptor. And the fact that they have a true melt, the Thermal Lance, which is 24 inches, and you get D6 plus 4 damage at 12. I mean, I think it's going to have a much better impact for what I'm looking for.
It's significantly better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Melta really got nerfed hard this edition as far as being the anti-vehicle unit, killer type weapon, which is unfortunate because, I mean, Space Marines don't have a lot of strength 12, or higher than strength 10 anyway, weapons outside of melee. And it definitely, without the reroll to wound, all the strength 9 stuff that really relied on it, like eradicators, are okay because they get it innately. They don't need oath; they just have it. But stuff like the Redemptor was really hurt by it. Even units like Stern Guard were hurt by it. So it it was a. I think people don't understand how much oath of moments. Like, a lot of people complained about it. It's like, yeah, but Marines weren't exactly breaking the meta to begin with. So it was a pretty hefty nerf. Like, it's not just something that's like, meh. It was a significant downgrade. So you really have to kind of reevaluate some of these units. Unfortunately, because I love Redemptors, I love Dreadnoughts. So.
Yeah.
Which is why I made the Invictor look like a Dreadnought.
It amuses me that people talk about Oath and you're like, oh, it was so oppressing. But in the same breath, they're like, Fate Dice is okay.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe. No.
Click. Go back.
So speaking of Fate Die, then maybe it's not this particular army, but when you're taking your list to the local tournaments or the GTs, what list do you fear the most, and how do you think you're going to overcome it?
It used to be GSC, just because if they can't shoot me outside of 12, can just overly oppress you. Chaos Demons with Be'lakor is always terrifying. That nerf, or not nerf, but just not being able to shoot. So my 4 lists I'm most scared of. I'm not scared of any melee list outside of demons. They're kind of their own type of melee, but I'm not afraid of any melee. I love when I get matched up against melee. It just favors this type of list really well. Tau, GSC, they got nerfed, so less so them. Chaos Demons and Chaos Space Marines right now, with the way that they're just kind of wrecking tournaments, and their ability to get oath for a CP and to make you not shoot them outside of 12, their most oppressive units. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of something that makes me have to bring my units that have long range into short range and take away, the benefit of paying the point premium you did for that long range. So those are the lists I fear. But at the same time, I think that's where the Crusaders are so important, because they are always moving forward. They give me a first line of units that I want to move forward, that I want to park on an objective. And when you have 2 or 3 of those just going to an objective 5 at a time coming out of cover, that's a lot of OC. And because they don't have a lot of melee, if you park it on an objective, just shoot, and you're competing for OC, but you have more, I have no incentive to charge when I'm going to OC them, deny them from scoring their primary, and now I get to keep my 5 guys alive, and oh no, I gave up 16 attacks in melee, um, shucks. But those are lists I definitely fear.
Gotcha. All right, so I guess I'm asking the next question again. Give Alex the opportunity. So, if you were going to change it up a little bit, I kind of pick your brain a little bit on that. So we know that you Ironstorm is kind of your thing here, and it sounds like you did it a little bit with the Blood Angels. Do you have the inclination for some close combat? Do you have any ideas for other lists that you would do in the future?
So for close combat, Primaris Crusader squads are really good, really strong. We've seen the number of attacks they have and just the sheer volume. And when you throw in our 5-up, feel no pain with them, it's awesome. It's really really fun. In ninth edition, I played that a lot. I played, I kind of tried to just outbleed my opponent by just sheer volume, sticky objective on the Primaris Crusader squads. I mean, it was great. This edition, I started out with them, and they're strong. But the hard part I had with them is that's the unit that when you're bringing as a 20-man brick, that's the unit your opponent is going to pump everything into, and that's what you're building your list around, is that big 20-man brick. Because if you're bringing a 20-man brick, you're also bringing a character with it, whether it's
Yep.
Tannhauser Bones or Grimmy. So it's enough of a point sink that if you have control and it's going well, it's going to go really well, and you're going to dominate. But if they take that big unit away from you pretty early in the match, now you're extremely on the back foot because of how much your list has to be built around that. If I was going to go into melee, it would probably be building around, what everyone's building around right now, which is the aggressors. The power fists, uh, them getting to hit on 3s, and that they have enough bolter fire. The Primaris Crusader squads, if I was going to bring them, I would actually bring them in squads of 10, and I wouldn't put my 5-up feel no pain on them. The reason being is I would want them to hold objectives, but not necessarily survive the entire game on the objective, because I don't want to lose a unit, and by losing that one unit, be on the back foot for the rest of the time. But if I could break up that 20 man into 2 10s, put the 10 man on an objective, and instead of putting 20 on them at once, put 10 there, have the other one sitting, just waiting their turn until their brothers take one for the team. Once they're out, then bring in the next squad. That's how I would do it. The scout move with them is incredible.
What
So
you
yeah,
lose with a character.
yes, exactly.
So the only really I think the only time that I would probably put a character with them is a 20-man, and I'd probably go Grimaldus
Mm-hmm.
because he gives them the free 5-up feel no pain or advance and charge, which they have rerolls for, or an extra AP if you need it. You can make Chainsword's AP3, which is
Yep,
hilarious.
amazing.
Here, have 75 AP3 Chainsword attacks. I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
What you have what? Yep, that's
Yes.
right.
It's the most fun.
Just go ahead and pick up your knight. It's
Yeah.
okay. But in 10 mans, they're really spammable. And
Exactly.
with Scout, the Scout move is like incredible for them because it lets them get into position early on. And then you can advance if you need to and get far up the board pretty quickly, and they're no slouch by themselves in combat.
Mhm.
Especially you can, for a CP, toss an extra AP on them.
Yep.
All those kind of things. So You lose a little bit, of their damage potential, but um, they're not to be underestimated for sure by themselves.
Absolutely. And your opponent's gonna, if your opponent has 50 Primaris Crusader squads just walking up the board, and every time he kills one, what is it, 115 points, 120 points? You're like, okay,
140. They're 140.
140. Here's the next one, and here's the next one. I mean,
It's like, oh,
if
you only damaged this one. Cool. I'm gonna devout push.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I was gonna run a melee list, it would be that, but I would play it in such a way where I don't have to get in melee to win.
Mhm.
Where I have my bodies that are going to score me primary. I have my bodies going to score me secondary objectives, and if I am in melee, I'm going to do well. But I don't need to get in melee to make their points. They can just make their points by simply existing and holding objectives or screening out or whatnot.
How do you feel about Sword Brethren?
Really good. I love Sword Brethren. Part of the reason why I had 5 Crusader squads is I had a Sword Brethren. I painted them all up, and it's so lame, but I made them all different. They're like basically the Power Rangers, right? That's what I had them as. So I put one guy into each squad to represent their Sword Brother. Sword Brothers are awesome. They're fantastic. What I struggle with, and you notice I don't have any transports, is I don't ever want to have to spend points to move something. If I were to go Sword Brothers, it would be to rapid ingress and walk up that way just because I'd rather put my points elsewhere. But Sword Brother are phenomenal. I'd run them in groups of 5, captain with them for sure. Especially the captain that you can give him the bonus attack. He gets 3 extra attacks for a turn, right? And you
Yeah,
make those all extra
finest hour.
damage. Exactly. And so I would bring those in 1 or 2 squads of 5, and I would rapid ingress them and have them be, put pressure on the back line. I wouldn't walk them up the board just because I want to make sure that I get in combat with them. If I can rapid ingress in safety, and then on my turn, come around a corner, make a charge, then I'm going to get in combat. And worst case scenario is I probably break even, point wise.
Helbrecht is amazing with them too.
Does that stack? Does his
Yes.
damage go up?
Yep. So 12, strength 7, AP 3, damage 2 attacks.
Yeah. Okay.
Critting
See,
on
that's why.
5s.
See, okay. There's the melee. There we go.
Yep.
I would invest in that.
Yep.
That
Helbrecht
sounds
is
fun.
ridiculous with them. Like, I'd almost always use his sweep because it's 12 attacks.
Hitting on
There's
2s.
very hitting on 2s. There's very few circumstances where his strike profile outperforms the sweep just because of the sheer number of damage to attacks that he throws out. Same thing with the Emperor's Champion, is also really good with them. He doesn't do anything for the squad, but they buff him, giving him damage to 10 attacks.
No.
And then if he's attacking an attached character or an attached,
Precision.
well, the strike has precision. The sweep doesn't. But if as long as he's attacking a unit that's attached, they're a character unit at that point because they gain the character keyword as a unit, not the models, but as a unit. And he gets +1 to wound. So virtually any infantry unit, I don't know of any infantry unit that is tough 8. So he's going to wound them all on 2s if they're attached. So hitting on 2s, wound on 2s, 10 attacks, AP2,
That's
damage 2.
fantastic.
It's really good. And then if there is a character in there that you want to kill, all right, cool. I've got, what do you call it? 6 attacks. He's strength 8 at that point, AP 3, and it's 4 damage each.
Oh my!
So
Character killer. One
yeah,
gets through.
Yeah, you just need 1 or 2. Bye. Most characters don't have more than 4 wounds, so he's really good with them. Which finally, I mean, like for all of 9th, we were like, he's okay, but
Yeah.
there's always something better to take. And now it's like, cool. Bob and I like them in impulsors. So
Which is a great
it's
unit.
like 2 impulsors, 5 sword bros, Helbrecht and the Emperor's Champion. Have fun.
And you get the multi-meltas on the impulsors.
And you get the multi-meltas, yeah. So, I think, I think Sword Brethren are probably one of, if not the best melee unit in Space Marines.
I would agree with that. Because
Like,
they get the number of
so
attacks
ridiculous.
too. Like,
yeah, they
Centurions,
have
no, they don't.
Yeah,
Sword
They
brother,
have this
absolutely.
absurd number of attacks. They have really absurd damage output, and then you pair them with a character that they can buff really well, like Helbrecht in the
Hmm.
Emperor's Champion, and their damage potential just goes through the roof.
I would definitely run. I would definitely consider running those because again, it's not enough of a point sink where if they don't kill the enemy completely, that you've lost.
Yep.
But it's super strong so that you can easily create complete havoc in their backfield if they don't turn around and address them.
Yeah, they're cheap enough that they can hit up with their 5 man, which you
Hmm.
don't have to invest in the 10 man like Sword Brother and Bomb, which most people like doing with their Land Raiders and
Hmm.
Castellans. And I'm like, yeah, it's a fun unit, but why? You're gonna kill everything.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's just like, what's the point?
it's overkill for sure.
Hmm.
And I did play. I was playing a test game against myself with the Land Raider, and I got to tell you, deploying 10, really 12 guys, especially with Helbert, uh, it's not easy to get them all within 3 inches of the Land
Hmm.
Raider.
Hmm.
You got to like basically wrap around the Land Raider because they're all in 40 mil bases, so you really can't
Interesting.
You can't like depending on where they are, like in the front where there's a little indent, you could fit like 2 deep. But like on the sides, most of the time you really can't get more than 1 deep because it's there's just too much. There's not enough room.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely a little bit more of a challenge. You can end up with dudes further away than you really want them to be,
Yeah,
which is sort of defeats the point.
especially with the new melee rules, in 10th, where you have to be,
As
no
close as
longer is it.
possible.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So we're kind of getting towards the end here, so I'm going to ask a more fun question. So now that we see TJ is going to be running more shooting in the near future here, did you get any funny looks from your opponents when you plopped down some Black Templars on the board and all of them had guns?
Uh, One of my favorite, the orc player. He came to the table and he goes, "You're Black Templars." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I haven't." He goes, "I haven't played them before, but we just got back from lunch." He's like, "But I'm so excited! There's all these shooting armies here. I can't wait to play another melee army." I was,
It's like,
I was,
well, I'm sorry, I have bad news for you.
when I ran Blood Angels and I had zero melee, I had the same thing where someone's like, "Finally, a Blood Angels player," and I was like, "Listen, it's all flamers and Overwatch and no melee," and they're like, they're less happy. So yes, I get definitely get the looks, and then from purists, I guess. I'm sure there'll be some hate of, either I'm going to die on the sword and go out with the sword only, or not at all.
Yeah, I'm still here. Like, I got so much hate in fifth edition.
I
It's
remember.
so much
I
hate.
was one of them giving you grief.
It was, yeah. I got
But
hate mail.
the
Yep.
thing is, like, if you want to run the Ironstorm detachment, you really kind of got to tilt into vehicles.
Yep.
100%.
Exactly.
Um, and you're still taking advantage of some things that are unique to us,
Exactly.
like the multi melta, the extra multi melta on those tanks, the Crusader squads, those kind of things. Obviously, I'd like to see a little more melee, but that's just me. And there's not really a wrong way to run it. I mean, armored spearhead is literally a way that they describe us fighting in the original fourth edition codex, where like a spearhead of tanks, basically cuts a swath into the enemy before we get into combat. So if you want to look at it that way, that's
I'm
exactly
gonna
what you're doing.
I'm gonna retweet you for the haters when it comes.
So, what do you think of speaking of armored spearhead tanks and whatnot? How do you feel about Vindicators?
I think they're good. I I think they're good. I think they do their job well. I think they're absolutely to be feared. The hard part is, and that's actually something that I like that Game Workshop. They don't want there to be auto take units. Like the Calidus is, everyone's taking a Calidus. Eventually, they're gonna pump back up. But the amount of points for that versus the Lancer, and the fact that Lancer negates Oath, I think the lack of wound reroll with for for the Vindicator is challenging because you don't have that reroll. But with the Lancer, you get you get to reroll a wound just because you're a Lancer, and this detachment you get to reroll a wound because you're in the Iron detachment. Okay, there's your oath of moment with your the guns that you actually care about. Getting the shots hit on. But I think it's a great unit. I think the Lancer is undercosted. I think if the Lancer goes up in points, then I would definitely consider running one because when it hits hard
Yeah, I'm
and
just
fun.
glad that it's good again.
Yeah, cool
It's
model
it was
too.
one of my favorite units from the old days, and I remember people feared the Vindicator like more than any other tank. Like they were so afraid of it, like they would just pour everything into trying to kill that Vindicator. And that was back when we had like armor facings and like an armor pen table, and like
Hmm.
we could give power of the machine spirit to a Vindicator as an upgrade, which meant that like you couldn't because you used to be able to just like ping it for some damage for a glance, and then it couldn't shoot because it was stunned or whatever. Well, the power of the machine spirit negated that,
Negated that.
so we were just like, don't care. Drive
Bring it
forward
on.
and
Yeah.
charge. Yeah. So yeah, awesome. Another, I guess, as Bob put it, fun question is, how did you get into Black Templars? What about them sort of drew them to you, and how did you get started playing them?
When I first started in ninth, it was during COVID, and I was just playing Blood Angels. I picked Blood Angels because my buddy was a Salamander player, and the local store I went to, they had the cool starter box, and I was like, all right, that looks cool. And so I started Blood Angels, had some success pretty early, which was really fun. But then the Drakari Codex came out, and once the
Oof.
Drakari Codex came out, and I got to experience the fun that were the Bright Lances and those the Talos or those with the Overwatch Flamers that were insane. Blood Angels just really struggled, and I never was one to like, oh, let's just spam Sanguinary Guard. I think 50% of the fun of this hobby is just list creating and thinking and kind of reimagining. And so once I kind of got burnt out on and how far down Blood Angels were, I was attracted to Black Templars because I liked their unique units. I liked their characters, and I liked the amount of play they had, the way you could play them differently, the different vows you could choose. I loved that, and the fact that they in ninth they paired really well with dreadnoughts and made our vehicles sustainable and strong, and the models look great. So that's actually how I found you guys. Is I was like, you know what, I want to try this Black Templar. Did a quick search. You guys are the number one that popped up, and started you know
Mhm.
creeping on all your content and learning how to play the army. And I love it. I love it. I think Black Templars have cool lore and
Doesn't hurt that we
good
got some
tabletop.
fantastic new models either.
Love it.
I love it.
Fantastic
Yeah,
models. I
yeah.
do miss our old flamers on the Primaris Crusade. Weren't they like strength 6, damage
Oh yeah,
2, AP 2,
they
16
were
inches,
strength 5 AP1 with like
damage
a
2?
15-inch range. No,
Yeah.
that was the preview, and there was a joke about that because when Warcom previewed them, they were damage 2, and we were like, yes, yes, wow. And then literally like 5 minutes later, they updated the article and it was damage 1, and we were all like,
Like, and there goes the excitement.
and
Yeah.
there goes that.
Yeah.
Toss it in the bin.
I loved when
So,
we got our 2 free power fists for free.
yep,
When they gave all the war gear free in ninth, that was a blast.
yeah,
That's when I was really melee heavy.
yep.
One of the best things I think about, like across all of the editions with Black Templars, I feel like we have the rules that make us the most adaptable to change in the
100%.
edition. No matter what balance data slate comes across, what armies out there, we can adjust the best between all of our units that we have and the rules that we've had, whether it's been the online data sheets or whatnot.
Hmm.
We can play shooty, we can play mixed, we can play mechanized, we can play close combat, whatever we need to do based on what the state of the game is. And like Space Wolves can't do that. Blood
Hmm.
Angels can't do that. They're pigeonholed into one style of play. and I feel like we aren't. So that's one of the
Yeah,
things that keeps
Yes.
me interested in the army.
Well,
it's
and something too that I've noticed too, like we've with the new Space Marine detachments, a lot of people are asking about like, well, what about this? What about that for Black Templars? Are these better than Righteous Crusaders? And I'm like, well, not necessarily. It just depends on your style of play. But the cool thing is that some of these detachments, even though they don't really have maybe the same level of like melee buffs that our detachment has, so you have to kind of run on the strength of the data sheet. Is our unique unit data sheets are extremely strong,
yeah,
so you don't have to like worry about like I need all these buffs to make this unit go.
yes, absolutely. And the adaptability with it, with Space Wolves, they're all going to run the what is it, the Lance detachment,
Yep,
for
the
mount for
onslaught.
exactly. With Black Templars, there isn't a new detachment. You're like, oh, that would suck. I mean, Vanguard, 4 deployed, 20 Primaris Crusader squads, and just line it up and say, all right, enjoy your max 9-inch move. Turn. I mean, that'd be so much fun, and you could have that, and you could still have your gun line shooting in the back with -1 to hit. It's there is so many different ways to build around Black Templars, and at no point, no one ever looks at Black Templars like the Eldari that are just broken and always at the top. It's an army that's respected, it's good, and people are always going to enjoy playing against you. So I love the Black Templars.
I'm glad you joined.
Yeah, me
Thanks for
too.
having me.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Got to represent the first Black Templars 10th edition win that I'm aware of, GT size. So, got to congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you.
Hopefully more.
Yeah, hopefully this weekend. Let's go.
Yeah. How big is the one you're going to this weekend?
180
Ooh,
something
nice.
potential. It's in San Diego, so not too far from where SoCal Open was, but it's potentially a 3-day. And my way when I go into GT tournaments, I either want to lose the first game, or if I'm going to lose, give me the first game or give me the last. Because if you lose the first, you can just relax and have a good tournament. And if it's
Yep.
the last, then you made it the distance at least. So that's my hope for this weekend is one of the two.
One of the two. Nice. Well, we'll hope it's the neither, and it's
It's the one all the way. Let's
it's
go.
it's
That'd be
it's,
great.
it's the win. So yeah, I assume you're going to be running the Iron Storm detachment again for this one.
Yeah, one other unit that I think is really strong too is that Ballistus because it has the built-in. He rerolls all hits unless the unit's below half strength, which he's las cannons. I mean, what are you shooting that is not? So he rerolls all hits. You get the reroll the wounds with the Iron Hands Iron Storm detachment. So yeah, this very similar list. Again, 5 Crusader squads, 2 Techmarines. I got rid of the Adept of the Omnissiah. I'm going with the advance and fall back to shoot. The Adept with the Omnissiah, that needs to go with Dreadnoughts. That's what I learned in that tournament is if you have a brick of 2 or 3 Dreadnoughts and it walks up with them, that's where you're going to get the points of negating damage. And that's where you could build in the Redemptor of -1 damage, +1 to save, negate it. I mean, you could go full hardcore into that. Kind of goes against what I want to do, where I don't want to have one main focus of my army. I want any unit to die and me not care.
Yep.
And my new list now, max unit is 160. I do not care if it dies, because I have more to do it. But yeah, similar list. Again, Calidus, no Eversur, but NX plays for getting the Armiger for the 12-inch move, scary gun, and 8 OC. And that's something else that the Redemptor struggles with, is that it doesn't have enough OC for its points.
Yep. I think it's 3,
Yeah,
maybe 4.
it's 3 or 4, and it's like I'm sitting on an objective, and I have 3 little nerd models here with me, and they're OC6, and I'm done. It's like this sucks. So similar list, again, definitely with the Invictor, just because it's the tank shock's hilarious, and you're just counting out 16 dice because you're tougher than everything you're charging.
Pistol whip.
So similar list, hopefully similar results.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Bob, any final questions that you can think of?
Nope. When you coming on the channel again? That's
Hey, as often as you guys want me, I'm here. It's been a pleasure. I'm honored.
Awesome.
I'm honored.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we appreciate you taking the time out and representing Black Templar as well, even if it's with a little different spin.
Taste.
But
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
I'm okay.
That's okay. It's all Black Templars as long as you're not running a librarian. You're good in my book.
Yep.
So, but
Nope.
Um,
comment.
yeah, right. But yeah, we really appreciate it, and it was great talking with you, and we hope to see you on the top of the leaderboards again real soon. So. Thanks everybody for watching. I know these videos tend to be a little bit longer, but we want to make sure that we're, given time to kind of really, really uncover all the facets of the list and their experiences and everything like that. So be sure to check us out on our Discord. We've got a really active community of folks. We've got our Patreon, a lot of great exclusive benefits there. Don't forget to click all the YouTube button things to make the algorithm work. And until next time, keep on crusade.